you can be worth $200 million and still pull up to work as the smallest flex in the parking lot. Because here, a Ferrari doesn't mean anything, a Lamborghini doesn't move anyone, and a Rolls-Royce? That's just background noise. This is where million-dollar cars sit in silence, like they're expected. Where players don't wait for tip-off to compete. They compete the second they arrive. One entrance, one engine, one car. And everyone already knows exactly where you rank, because in this parking lot, money gets you in. But only one thing decides where you stand: how far above everyone else you can go. Welcome to the NBA's most expensive parking lot, where before the first whistle even blows, your status is already exposed. Once you step into that parking lot, you realize something immediately. No one is trying to look rich. That part is already done. Now it's about who looks above rich. Some players keep it controlled. Luxury SUVs, clean, quiet builds, nothing too loud. But even that low-key choice still sits deep in six figures. And in any other place, that would be enough to stand out. Here, it barely registers. Because the moment another car pulls in, everything shifts. Lower stance, sharper design, a presence you can feel before you even turn your head. And suddenly, what looked expensive a second ago feels average. That's where the first real separation starts. Not between rich and poor, but between visible and forgettable. Players who understand this don't stay at that level for long. They upgrade. Now the energy changes. Bentleys roll in with tinted glass so dark you can't see inside. G-Wagons sit higher, wider, heavier than anything around them. These aren't just cars anymore. They're statements. You don't need to rev the engine. You don't need to do anything. Just pulling in is enough. And for a moment, that works. People notice, eyes follow, there's a reaction. But in this environment, a moment isn't enough, because right after that, something louder arrives, and everything resets again. Ferraris begin to take over, bright, aggressive, impossible to ignore. Then, Lamborghinis lower, sharper, built to stand out from every angle. Now the parking lot doesn't feel calm anymore, it feels alive. Engines crack through the air, exhaust notes bounce off the walls. People turn instantly, without thinking, because this level demands attention. And now, players aren't just showing up, they're making entrances. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. Because this level, it doesn't belong to one person, it belongs to everyone. Everywhere you look, there's another supercar, another bright finish, another loud engine, another statement. And when everyone is making a statement, no one stands out. That's when the real pressure begins. Because now, it's not about having something expensive, it's about having something different. And that changes everything. Players start going beyond what the car was meant to be. Paints that don't exist on standard models. Interiors built around personal taste, not factory design. Details so specific, you can recognize the owner instantly. Now it's no longer just a Ferrari, it's their Ferrari. And for a moment, that creates separation. But again, doesn't last. Because in this parking lot, someone is always one step ahead. Another arrival, another build, something newer, something rarer. And just like that, the entire balance shifts again. Because here, standing still isn't neutral, it's losing. That's why players don't stop at one car. They build collections, multiple options, different levels, different moods, one for comfort, one for presence, one for attention. Because the way you arrive depends on the statement you want to make that day. And that's what separates this level from everything else. It's not about ownership, it's about control. Control over how you're seen, how you're remembered, how you compare to everyone around you. Because the moment you pull in, there's no explanation, no introduction, no second chance. Your car speaks first, and in that instant, everyone already knows exactly where you stand. And the ones who understand this game best, they're not just trying to fit in, they're trying to make everything around them feel smaller. Because in the NBA, money isn't rare, but dominance? That's where the real difference begins. And this is where everything breaks. Because now, it's no longer about who has the better car. It's about who has something no one else can even touch. This is the level where cars stop being available. They become restricted, limited runs, private allocations, models that were never meant for the public. And suddenly, money isn't enough anymore. You can have hundreds of millions in your account and still not be allowed to buy what's sitting right in front of you. Because at this level, brands choose you, not the other way around. Now, when something pulls into the parking lot, people don't ask what it costs. They ask how it was even possible to get. And that question alone creates more impact than any price tag ever could, because price can be matched. Access can't. That's when the real separation begins. Hypercars start appearing, machines that don't look real, designs that feel more like concepts than something you can actually drive. Every line sharper, every detail intentional, every presence impossible to ignore. And when one of these shows up, everything else fades. The Ferraris that once dominated? Normal. The Lamborghinis that turned heads? Expected. Even the Rolls-Royces that felt untouchable become quiet. That's how fast the hierarchy shifts here. And once it shifts, there's no going back. Because now you're no longer competing at the same level. You've moved into something else entirely. A space where rarity defines everything. One of one builds custom commissions. Cars that exist only once and will never be repeated again. Now, the driveway isn't just expensive, it's unrepeatable. And that's when reactions change again. People don't just look. They stop, they study, they try to understand what they're seeing, because they already know this isn't something they'll see again anytime soon. And in a place where everything is already extreme, that's the only thing that still has power. But even here, pressure never disappears, because the moment someone brings something rarer, everything shifts again. One new arrival, and suddenly every other car feels outdated. That's the real game. Not who spent the most, not who owns the most, but who pushed it further than everyone else. Because in this parking lot, being rich doesn't win. Being impossible to ignore does. And the moment you pull in, that decision is already made. No conversation, no explanation. Just presence. That's why this never slows down. That's why it keeps escalating. Because once you reach this level, there's only one direction left. Further, more rare, more exclusive, more difficult to match, until eventually you stop competing with the people around you and start separating yourself from them completely. Because in the NBA, Anion can make millions, but only a few know how to turn that into something that resets the standard, something that makes everything around it feel smaller, something that doesn't just show wealth, but defines it. And that's why this isn't just a parking lot, it's a ranking. If you think this is insane, wait until you see what these players keep inside their garages, because what's outside, that's just the preview.